List. Hi, so we're going to talk about Singapore. So I'll start first. So I'll talk about the 101. There are two, well, actually three, but I will explain two of the 2 points here. The first one are the that Singapore actually is a state that is formed of around 63 islands. There are really little islands as well. Singapore, the whole country, is one of the most smallest countries worldwide. And second of all, they were actually British colony before their independence. So if you go to Singapore one day, you'll see a lot of British stuff, like everything is adapted to the British concept. And finally, I would like to say that Singapore is a really multicultural and diverse country. As you know, there's Singapore is really well known for his really good quality of life. Many people migrate to Singapore, and so the multicultural and multilingual society is really set up. So there are three main languages, which is the Chinese, the Malaysian, and the English one. Now Cecilia is going to explain the urban narratives.
Now, talking about urban narratives and social division, by social division, we refer to a historic point in Singapore's history that's way back to its when Singapore wasn't independent. So, when Singapore, before its independence, major ethnic groups on the island were assigned by their own separate communal, and in that communal they used to work and live. And I think that gave Singapore a strong social division by race. And also Singapore is organized from a point of view of the colonial Malaysian government, because Singapore was part of Malaysia in some point of history, and it became independent around 1969. And I think that's it. So if you want to continue with independent nation.
All right, so I'll explain independent nations. So here are two main points. So the first one is the Presidential Council for Minority Rights, and the other one is the molded by its racial riots. So, well, after Singapore became an independent nation, the president of the Council of the for the Minority Rights, he was introduced in 1970 to ensure that the government, well, does not implement any law which discriminates or disadvantages any race or religion or community. Now we're going to special relations.
Now, special relations and democracy. Actually, Singapore is organized the same as Mexico. They have a legislature, the executive and judiciary power. They have a prime minister that's different than Mexico, of course. They have a prime minister and a president. The prime minister is the head of the government, and the president is the head of state. They actually have opposition, both of them, but they don't have opposition. By this, I mean that people actually vote, but the same person always gets elected. So I think that's kind of manipulated. It's not wrong to vote for another person or to run an opposition, but it doesn't look good and probably won't end good. I don't mean they're gonna kill you if you run against the prime minister, but I think there's like it's wrong, like it's not like it's not very common. Well, and also like how is Singapore organized? They organize in flats, uh, like not only flats, of course, they have houses and etc. But the majority of people in Singapore live in flats. They have like a subsidiary kind of organized flats. By this, I mean that the government helps people to have their own flat. But if you want to live in a different way, like in a more big house or in a more luxury house, you struggle to buy that house. Like it's like the good thing about Singapore is that maybe poverty doesn't exist, but having a more big house or more luxurious house is very, very hard. And now continuing with the cultural background.
All right, so well, Singapore. as a nation actually is pretty new. As well, they went from nothing to one of the biggest actually Asian tigers. That it's not a small thing. So they have been really doing good in economic things, but as well as it is a new country, and as it is really full of migrants from many people from all over the world. The thing about the cultural background, it's hard for them because there they have a lot of to make in order to progress as a society and in order to progress in economic things. Singapore's cultural background is really well known by the restrictions they have. They are known for a really restrictive rules policies, and for sure, if you break the rules there, you will have a really bad time. Now we go to the citizens.
Um, with the citizens topic, I would like to give like a background story. We actually know someone from Singapore, so we took a chance to ask him what he thought about like in general about Singapore, but we focus on what he thinks about the Singaporean society, and he thinks that Singapore in paper is really beautiful. Like everyone has equal rights. Everyone has public transportation, education, blah blah blah. But in the reality, Singapore, there's a lot of wealth, of course, as we already mentioned, but there's also a lot of inequality, as we just mentioned. The role that the government plays with the condominiums, it's very good, but it has like weak points. And it also like the type of organization that Singapore used to have before its independence, like having these communities that people used to live and work in them, organized by, it's not written like by race, but they were actually organized by race. So it gave like Singaporean society an unequal background. So I think also Singapore society is very competitive. If you start from a young age to be very competitive. This guy used to tell me that Singaporean kids used to make these hard exams that actually make a strong like they form your path. By this I mean that from elementary school they used to make these exams that mark the path to what university you were gonna attend. So struggling with those obligations since you were like a little kid, it's very hard. So I think Singapore is we all this guy and me and I think Sebastian think that Singapore in paper is really beautiful, but there's a bunch of background and a bunch of history that we have to look up to look it up so we can understand Singapore. And also we did a little research and we found another quote from someone that says that multiculturalism accomplishes this by making racial diversity sound desirable rather than a potential divisive force in the fostering of national consciousness. More importantly, multiculturalism sets the stage for the production of more myths. So as we already mentioned before, uh, Singapore is composed by major ethnic groups and has a lot of races, so it's a multicultural country.
All right, so now just for in matter of conclusion, for us, we about what we investigated, what we read about this country, the thing about the is it inclusive or an exclusive country? Well, to be honest, Singapore is by far a really inclusive country. Everyone there is the middle class. There actually poverty is actually net zero, not net zero, but so close to net zero. And so for sure they are a really inclusive country. And so
And,
yes, go.
and we think that space is democratic in paper. Like they have elections for their prime minister and their president, but the opposition actually is not strong, and it's unusual to have not a strong opposition. So we think that the space in paper is democratic, but it actually is not. Like in paper, it's weird to not have a strong opposition, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah, and also that's basically everything. And so thank you for your attention.